Hi, I'm Ivett Csordas, and I'm a learning content manager in the UK, and I'm also a part-time coach at Idle Courses Academy. I don't use Rise personally at my job, but I have built a few courses in that. And as part of my role at Idle Courses Academy, I coach new instructional designers, and I review their work that they submit, whether it's Rise, whether it's Storyline, whether it's something else. So I've seen quite a lot of courses created in Rise, and I recently wrote an article, I call it an interactive article, about what blocks are available in Rise and how to use them, how best to use them, and some of the most common mistakes that I've noticed in my reviews are mentioned in it as well. So Rise is basically from the same company as Storyline. It's called Articulate Rise and Articulate Storyline. It is a cloud-based authoring tool. It is a rapid authoring tool, so it's definitely fast. And it's cloud-based, so it means that it's much easier to collaborate with other people, and you don't have to download the software. You can just access it through a link. It uses blocks, so that means that you can just add a block easily that is already customized and ready for you, and then you could just change the content or change the styling or customize it to the way you want. So that's why it's quite fast. Before I go into detail, I have to mention that there are two Rise products basically. There's Rise.com and there's Rise 360. In the article that I wrote and in the Idle Courses Academy as well, we recommend people, especially people who are building their portfolios, to use Rise 360, mainly because it allows you to export your project at the end to a website so you can put it on your portfolio, whereas this is not possible with Rise.com at the moment. So I normally talk about Rise 360. If you want to access Rise 360, you could just go to the website and sign up for it. There is a free trial available, or you can buy the product as well. So in terms of how it works, this is basically what you see when you have built up your course. The course has a landing page, you have different sections or modules, you can add lessons underneath it. Right now I'm looking at the interactive article that I mentioned that I wrote, so this is what it looks like in the background. I have 3 modules, and each module has a lesson, and it's very easy to add a new lesson. I'm just going to type in something, and you can see it's ready, and I can add content, and it's quite... It has quite a lot of options. So for example, you can add a standard lesson, but you can also select templates from ready built courses, and you could take not just the styling or the customization, but you can also take the content that is already added. So that's another reason why it's quite rapid. And when you go into a lesson, let me just open this last one that I created. You have quite a lot of blocks. So the only thing you need to do is go to all blocks, and then select one type that you want. There are, text, statement, you could see all the other options that you have. The best ones, I think, and that's where Rise is really good, are the interactive options. So you can have an accordion template, for example, a tab. And as you can see, just by clicking at it, it adds all of them in. So it's quite easy to use. So there are quite a lot of these interactive templates. There's also quite like the multimedia as well. You can embed videos, you can embed all kinds of content. You can even embed I checked the other day, a Spotify playlist, for example. You can embed a Google form, or, quite a lot of things. And it's very easy, once you started, you just click on the plus icon again and then choose whatever it is that you're looking for. Chart, for example, etc. I'll go through all the block options in the article. In this video, I'm just going through in general an overview to give you an overview of what Rise can do and how it works. And then in the left-hand side of each template, you can see the customization options. You can, choose to edit the content itself, what you want to appear, but you can also change some of the settings as well. And that obviously depends, the setting and the editing options obviously depend on the block type that you're using. Another thing I want to mention is how you can change the settings. So once you enter the lesson, you can come here and you have quite a few options. In the settings, you can set up, your cover, or customize the theme, set up your font, your brand colors as well. And then you can choose certain navigation options, etc., etc. It does make sense to set up at least the theme, and the navigation before you create the content, but you can also come back here and do these later. And there are like further, quite like a bit more advanced options here. And then, as I mentioned, this is really good for collaborating. So for example, you can share it to have it reviewed. In Review 360, that means that it's not yet published, but when people see the course, there will be a comment section on the right hand side, so people can leave comments in the course, and then you can come back to it and implement those suggestions or those comments. And then of course you can export it. As I mentioned, you can export it to the web if you're using Rise 360. In terms of why Rise is really good, as I mentioned, it's really rapid. You just click on the plus icon and then you add a block, and then the block is ready for you. If you want to further customize it, you can. Another thing that I'd like to point out in terms of like, quite good tools is the block templates type. So for example, I have saved all these templates, and I'm able to reuse them anytime in any kind of content, and I don't have to customize the things anymore. So that's quite useful of creating consistency throughout the course. As I mentioned, another positive thing about it is how easy it is to collaborate and gather feedback, because it happens on the cloud and just by sharing a link rather than exporting the whole things as you would have to do with Storyline. So that makes it quite easy. I quite like, let me just show you my favorite block types. So for example, I quite like the flashcards block option, where you just flip over cards, and that can be quite useful to present content and chunk it down and introduce some interactivity. And the other one that I quite like is the labeled graphics block, where you can click on hotspots to find out more about the certain things, but it doesn't have to be used with screenshots. You can use it with any kind of image, and that is applicable to the topic that you're creating content about. Now, these are all the positives of Rise. If you were to ask me where Rise could do better, perhaps, I would say that it's the customization. Some things are not as customizable as I'd like them to be. There is only one theme color that I can add, and I had to customize all the others. It also introduces some accessibility issues as well, because, for example, there was a color that I tried to use that I wasn't able to change later because that was the client's color, but it didn't work well with the default white text that Rise uses with, for example, the continue button or the numbered list option. So that meant that I had to make a decision whether I would make those accessible or whether I would use the client's colors. So customization is not as flexible as I'd like it to be. And now that I'm talking about accessibility, I also point out in my interactive article where there are accessibility issues, which blocks are not accessible to keyboard users, and there's quite a few of them. So that's something to bear in mind if you're creating a course for a diverse audience. And I have used a similar authoring tool, similarly cloud-based, similarly block-based authoring tool that had a bit more options. So Rise has quite a good selection of interactive block components, but that other tool that I used had more. It allowed me to create simulations, for example, and it allowed me to use variables as well. So I feel like Rise could do a bit more in that area, could have a bit more. But overall, it is a great tool. It is a very well-known tool, so it's very much worth knowing how to use it. And if you want to know more about it, then you can also check out the interactive article that I wrote, and it will be in the links in the description below.